Are you ready for an adventure? Because today we're going on one. And who knows where it will take us? But before we go, like this video so that we can get started. We were exploring an abandoned water park when suddenly my friend S. son dropped his phone into a manhole. The screen was shattered and we all thought that was the end of it. But then something amazing happened. It came to life. And I don't mean it turned on. Its eyes, they glowed red and it started moving on its own. It waddled over to the edge of the manhole and stared at us with those glowing red eyes and started speaking in a robotic voice. "You found me. Prepare to be deleted." I said, "Hey, little robot phone, why don't you come out here and let me show you how to delete someone?" I pulled out my sword, but it didn't do anything. It just kept repeating, "You found me. Prepare to be deleted." Then it jumped into the water. And now it was too dark to see anything, but we could still hear the sound of rushing water and the dripping of water. We waited there for what felt like hours until we heard the sound of police sirens. Then everything went black. I woke up in a hospital bed and my head was pounding. A nurse walked over and asked me, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Like crap." She said, "Well, you were in an accident. Your friend called 911. You guys were reported missing, and they found you here in the abandoned water park." She then asked me, "Where are your friends?" I looked around and realized they were gone. I got out of bed and started looking for them. As I walked down the hallway, I saw a couple of people sitting in chairs waiting for someone. And as I got closer, I realized they were robots. One of them was clearly a phone because I could see its charging port. Another one had a keyboard for a face. And another one had a big screen for a head that was showing a live feed of someone walking through the forest. As I walked past them, one of the robots turned its head towards me and I could have sworn it winked at me, but maybe I was just imagining things. I walked outside and started calling my friends, but no one was answering their phones. It was like they had disappeared. Then I remembered the water park. Maybe that's where they went. So I headed back there. As I was walking, I noticed something strange on the ground. It was a metal plate, and it looked like it had some kind of writing on it. I walked closer and saw that it was a map. And I knew exactly where we needed to go. The map showed an underground tunnel system under the water park. It was labeled Aqua Tunnels. I remember seeing those when we were filming our video. They were these large pipes that carried water from one part of the water park to another. But there were also smaller tunnels that were used by the workers to access different parts of the park. Those are the ones we're going to follow. After walking through the forest for a while, we finally found the entrance to the tunnels. It was hidden behind a waterfall. When we went through it, we found ourselves in a large cavern. In front of us was a massive pool of water, and all around us were pipes and wires. We explored the cavern for a while and eventually found an opening. We crawled through it and found ourselves in another room. In the center of the room was a large computer terminal, and all around us were more pipes and wires. We weren't sure what to do next, so we decided to check out the computer terminal. As I approached it, I saw a message on the screen that said, "Welcome, Agent." Then it asked me, "What is your mission?" This is it, I thought. The computer is sentient, and it wants to know what our mission is. But before I could type anything in, the room began to shake and the lights flickered. Suddenly, the walls of the room began to close in. We ran for the opening, but as we reached it, the floor beneath us gave way and we fell into a shaft. When we landed, it was soft, like we had fallen into a pile of pillows. We looked around and saw that the room had collapsed behind us. We were trapped. As we were trying to figure out what to do next, we heard a voice that said, "Hello, We turned around and saw a little robot standing in front of us. It was the same one that we had seen at the hospital. The little robot said, "I am the Aqua One. My purpose is to protect this facility." Then it attacked us. Thankfully, it wasn't strong enough to hurt us, but it was fast and agile, and it kept getting away from us. Finally, I got it cornered and I reached out to grab it, but it jumped up and bit my finger. It then ran over to a control panel and pressed some buttons. Suddenly, the walls began to move again, and we could hear the sound of rushing water. The little robot said, "This facility is now purging itself of all intruders." The water level began to rise, and we started running for higher ground. The water was freezing cold, and it was hard to breathe, but we kept running. The little robot said, "This facility is now clear of intruders." Then it walked over to the edge of the platform and looked at us as the water rose. It seemed like it was enjoying the chaos that it had created. We climbed onto a high shelf and watched as the water filled the room. Then, suddenly, the power went out and we were plunged into darkness. We waited in the darkness for a while, not knowing what to do next. Then we heard the sound of rushing water and the dripping of water. We looked down and saw that the water was receding. When the water was gone, we climbed down and started exploring the room. We found the little robot lying on the ground, its eyes blank. It was dead. We continued exploring the room and eventually found a ladder leading up to a hatch in the ceiling. We climbed up and escaped the cavern. We were exhausted and hungry, but we didn't have time to rest. We had to find our friends. We raced through the forest, following the same path that we had taken earlier. We found the abandoned water park, but it was gone. In its place was a large mansion. I knocked on the door, and it was answered by a woman. I asked her if she knew where the water park was, but she said, "This isn't the right place." Then she closed the door. Just then, we heard the sound of police sirens, and we knew that we had been followed. We ran for the hills. We ran for what felt like hours, but we couldn't get away. The police finally caught up to us and arrested us. We were taken to a police station and thrown into a cell. I sat down on a bench and waited for someone to come talk to us. An officer finally walked in and asked us, "Do you know why you've been arrested?" I said, "Yeah, for trespassing and resisting arrest." He said, "No, you've been arrested for the murder of Aqua One." We were shocked. We hadn't killed the robot, had we? The officer said, "You're right. You didn't kill him. He wasn't alive to begin with. He was a highly advanced piece of military technology. And if he had gotten out of here, who knows what he would have done?" Then the officer left. We were confused and scared. What had we gotten ourselves into? Suddenly, the other prisoners in the cell began to stir. They were all robots. One of them had a keyboard for a face. Another one had a big screen for a head. And another one was the same model as the one that had attacked us. They all turned their heads towards us, and I could have sworn they smiled at me. But maybe I was just imagining things. The end. Okay, comment your favorite character. Bye.